Distractions. What are your distractions? When you are on retreat and you are holding that space, and this bleeds out into all areas of work, right? But I'm going to focus on retreat. And in the midst of a deep practice where the whole room is feeling it, and then one person walks away and charges their phone, what do you do? How do you hold that space? Well, you hold yourself. Because in that moment, the way you respond is everything. And having been in this industry for 25 years, maybe even more than that now, having been in these situations many times, I now know wholeheartedly that this is nothing about my work and what I am offering and the space that I am holding, and all about the individual who has hit their glass ceiling and doesn't have the capacity or the language to move through it. That's pretty powerful stuff. Because back in the day when I first started in this industry, well-being as an industry, does make me ponder sometimes the way we look at things. Back in the room, I would have bent over backwards for this individual. I would have gone out of my way to make sure they was involved. But you see, what happens when you do that is you neglect the 99.9% of the rest of the room who are in it with you. They are feeling it with you. But you are making it all about one person. And that one person, that's their responsibility, not yours. And this seems all this easy to say, right? So easy to say, but this is where you know when the facilitator, the space holder, the creator, the leader, label, has seriously done the work on themselves. And again, that work. I've done the work on myself. But so we all understand where I'm coming from. They've done the work on themselves. Because otherwise, that moment becomes all about those two people. And there is nothing there. Now, when I was on said retreat, I was participating at certain points. And there were times when I wanted to walk away, wanted to walk out. Had enough. That's enough. That's enough. But you see, I know this about myself. And I know about these glass ceilings where it starts to become uncomfortable. And how you can make your life bigger and way more sensational, or you can keep it where it is. But actually, when you do that, it gets smaller. Life does seriously get smaller over a gradual process. Sometimes you can't even feel it. But when we move through that distraction, that old habit, that frayed nerve, we start to feel that potential that moves within us, that potential we was born with, that potential that is our responsibility to nurture and look after. And sometimes that feels massive. Sometimes you don't want to. Totally get that. But when you are coming into a space like that, a retreat, an experience, a learning opportunity, and you start bucking when that person holds the space for you, what does that say about you? What does that say about you as an individual and the way that you come into community? And this is all observation, right? Gosh, when I look back, I remember when I was training out in India and we'd been there a month maybe, and I'd had it. I'd been away from home for over a month. I'd been in this tight container, and that angry teenager, she came out and she gave that teacher a really hard time. A really hard time, because she didn't know it wasn't about the teacher, it was all about her. All about her. But I had to sit in that space. And gradually, the unraveling took place. And I tell you, at the end of those 2 months, I will never ever forget this. I was sitting in Kirtan, so our morning singing, chanting session. And at the end of that session, I was overcome with so much love. I've never felt love like this. My whole body erupted. Everything felt love. It was the deepest love. And it wasn't because I had bought something or someone had given me something. I had just been singing. Well, I'd also just been in India for the last 2 months. But this feeling of love overcame me. I felt touched everywhere with so much beauty. That was love. That was the first time I had ever felt true, unconditional, non-expectational love. Because I had sat through all of that. And yes, I had been distracted by my emotions, but I had to show up there. And gradually, the needle began to move. And so again, I come back to ask you, what are your distractions? What takes you away from the moment? What makes you, and I say this with the greatest of respect, overprivileged? Because it is a privilege to be alive. It is a privilege to be able to walk down the street. It is a privilege, if you have children, to walk them to school. It is a privilege to exercise. It is a privilege to read. It is a privilege to run your own business, even when it's bloody hard. Because that is what life is. And isn't it wonderful when it becomes so simple? So when you hit that glass ceiling where you want to shut life down, because that's what you do. That is what you do. You shut life down. How does this impact you? How does this impact the people that you work with? How does this impact your family? And how does this impact your health? Because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Say that again. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And when we become conscious of that, we understand how we are curating our lives and how we are feeding areas that do not need to be fed. And we can see just how much we are disempowering ourselves, because we are all apparently seeking empowerment. But actually what we need to realize is how we are disempowering ourselves so we don't have the energy to feel empowered. So, what are your distractions? How do you shut down life? And how could you accept it however it shows up? Drop your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Big love.